That was Nathan Zegura on Jerry Jeudy last week, and the Browns lost to the Minnesota Vikings over there in Joliet. So far, Jerry Jeudy, 15 catches, 197 yards, no touchdowns. It's got to be better. And we're going into week 6, and I got to wonder. And, the quarterback play, scatter shot, it was better last week. The offensive line play, scatter shot, 4/5 of it was good, but my God, the left tackle position was terrible. So there are some excuses, but we're running out of them, and I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be pretty frustrated, but he's got to hold on to the football. And to talk about it all, we welcome in Nathan Zegura, who joins us from the Browns Radio Network. Follow him on Twitter, @Nathan Zegura. Nathan, it's week 6. We're in the middle of the month of October. Are we flirting with a lost season for Jerry Jeudy?
No, I mean, listen. He has got to play better. I know he knows he's got to play better. Unfortunately, not only have the 5 drops been more than you would like, but they've come at inopportune times. They've come on a 4th down against the Detroit Lions, and when you had a chance to make that a 1-score game, then they return the punt on the next play. And then, of course, the 3rd down there in Minnesota where you're trying to help out your rookie quarterback. So, no, it's not 35 targets. 15 receptions. That's not good. That's the lowest catch rate of his entire career thus far. He's averaging the lowest yards per target of his career at 5.6. His career average is 8.4. He's been 8.5 or better. And in fact, his average right around 9 yards a target over the last 3 seasons. So this is still a very small sample size. 35 targets. We're talking about a guy who last year had 145 targets. So it's a small sample size. I think there's still plenty of football left for Jerry Jeudy to play. I know that the team believes in Jerry Jeudy. I certainly believe in Jerry Jeudy. He was a Pro Bowler last year. The guy knows how to get open. He's going to catch the football. But so far, it has been a slow start to the season. And when you're an offense that is in need, right, and that's what we are. We are an offense in need of productivity, in need of scoring, all of those things. Outside, really, of Quinshon Judkins, you need your number 1 receiver. You need your Pro Bowler to be that guy that elevates everything, that makes plays for your quarterback, much like Justin Jefferson. And I'm not saying they're necessarily on the same level, but Justin Jefferson made a huge play for Carson Wentz down the stretch last week. That's what the Browns need from Jerry Jeudy, and he certainly is capable of it.
Are you a believer, Nathan, in chemistry? Because sometimes you see quarterbacks come off the street and all of a sudden, they're hitting guys in stride. It's tough to anticipate. Do you think maybe Judy just didn't have chemistry with Joe Flacco this time around?
I know that that's not the case because I watched them in practice, and it's funny. People forget when we went to Charlotte and we had joint practices where we had ones-on-ones. We went to Philadelphia and had ones-on-ones. Jerry Jeudy was annihilating people. The fact that Jerry Jeudy was not off to a massive start this season is a big surprise because anybody who watched this team in practice, anybody who watched the team in those joint practices, saw Joe Flacco and Jerry Jeudy have a great connection. And so, no, I think that, like Joe Flacco came in and had connection with Amari Cooper right away, and that was successful. He had a connection with David Njoku right away. And Chief really hadn't gotten going until this game. I think it's just, we have not operated at a high level. We have not been good on 3rd downs, regardless of who the quarterback has been. And that means that then you don't get as many plays on offense. You don't get as many long drives. You don't get as many opportunities. So I don't think it's a chemistry issue. I think that, some of those things need to be worked out. But I also think people forget that in the beginning of the offseason, the people getting – when I'm going back before training camp, people getting the first team reps were Pickett and Gabriel. And then you go to start training camp, and it was Pickett and Gabriel. Flacco didn't really get the reps until there was the injury to Kenny Pickett. I'm not saying that's why they didn't have chemistry, because they did, because I saw it, and then he got the majority of the reps with Gabriel getting the others. But no, I think that it's one of the, we just got to make plays. It really is that simple. And I know that sounds very cliche and very cheesy, but this is an offense right now where you need your playmakers to just go make plays. I'll give you a perfect example. Njoku high-pointing that ball on that little hole shot against cover 2 last week, going up and getting it, and Dylan Gabriel giving him a chance to make a play, and he made it. We need more of that.
Nathan Zegura joining us here on the Fan Hotline. I'm starting to worry a little bit about Isaiah Bond. I'm worried maybe he's starting to get a little lost in the offense here, Nathan. Make me feel better.
What do you mean by lost in the offense?
Because you're doing the game, you're on the radio, and Lima noticed. I had noticed after Lima, the announcers had said like, they slowed down a little bit on a route here, and there's times where it doesn't seem like it's maybe finishing. and some of the stuff there. And I go, well, he didn't have like a preseason. He joined late. Here he is in the team, expected to be at least a part of the offense here. And there could be a lot coming after him, or coming to him. I kind of want to know how he's progressing, I guess.
So I think with Isaiah Bond, you're seeing a couple of things. Number one, if you go back and watch the Minnesota game, there are 2 plays where he got behind the defense completely, but because of protection issues, which you mentioned earlier, we weren't able to get him the football. Isaiah Bond is a speed guy. That's what he's doing. And I think that for a young player, we're all kind of marveling at what Quinshon Judkins has been able to do without a training camp. Isaiah Bond didn't have any kind of an offseason. And so I think that there are nuances to route running that are sometimes an adjustment from going from college where he was gotten kind of near the line of scrimmage a lot or got it very far down the field on vertical routes. So I think there are nuances there. He is an incredibly talented kid. He is a very smart kid and a hard worker, so I think he will get it. I think what we're seeing is, it used to be it took 3 years, right, for receivers to come in the league and be good. That's not the case anymore. But I think, given his off season, that there probably are some growing pains. There are probably some, they haven't had a ton of reps together. I think that's much more an apropos thing with Isaiah Bond. When you watch him, there are multiple plays a game. He, by the way, has the longest reception on the season for the Cleveland Browns this year, 38 yards. But there are multiple plays a game where he gets open vertically. We just have to be able to sync those times up when we get the protection so we can deliver him the football. I like him. I think that in an ideal world, he's a guy that's probably playing, 20 snaps a game where you come in and you have some things in the game plan that you really like for him, and then as he is able to develop, you get more and more going forward. But with the injury to Cedric Tillman, he's kind of been thrust a little bit more into this role. And again, I think very talented. I think patience with Isaiah Bond is a good thing. I think it's a great ball of clay, and I think he's going to be productive for the Browns in the future. But when you watch it, yeah, sure, there are some times where it feels like maybe the route depth is not exactly what the quarterback was expecting. The one play where he kind of stopped, where he ran into the corner, I think Gabriel threw it over there thinking that he'd get a flag because that was contact well beyond 5 yards, and there should have been a flag on that one. But he does have an ability to get open down the field. We just haven't been able to capitalize on it yet, and he's shown the ability, I think, on his receptions to make catches in traffic. He's done a very good job, especially over the middle of the field. So I think there's a lot to work with there. I think it's just more time on task and understanding the nuances of this game at this level that will allow him to kind of unlock all that talent. But I say arrows pointing up, but it's going to be, I think he's in a role right now that, ideally he wouldn't have been in if it weren't for the Cedric Tillman injury.
Nathan Zegura joining us right now on the hotline from the Browns Radio Network. It seemed like the most reaction I saw from Kevin Stefanski this week talking about the quarterbacks was that people think Bailey Zappi is going to be named the backup later today. Was that your takeaway, or do you think that's an assumption people should not be making?
Mike, in terms of what Kevin Stefanski thinks about it?
Well, no, just his communication. He left it up in the air.
Yeah, I think look, we'll find that out. The reality is the backup quarterback doesn't play unless there's an injury to the starter. Dylan Gabriel's the starter. I think we'll find out what they think. I think that obviously Shedeur is an incredibly talented quarterback. If he is the backup, obviously they have great confidence in him. I was reading a tweet yesterday that Luke McCown wrote, and he was talking about when he was in Tampa, he was the backup, went into a game and did okay. After an injury, and he comes back and he's like, I don't understand. Next week they demoted him to third string. And the coaches told him, look, we like you more. If you had a whole week at this stage of your career to prepare and to get all the reps, we like you as a starter. So if there's an injury to the starter and you get a full week, you're actually the number 2. But in game situations, we're actually going to make Bruce Gradkowski the number 2 because he's a guy who's been in the league for a little bit longer than you. We know that he's started games. He can just kind of come in without the same number of reps needed during the week. So I think that could be a scenario that potentially plays out. That was Luke McCown's kind of just take on the whole situation. I don't know what the answer is going to be, but I think that, Bailey has started in the NFL 9 games, so maybe they feel more comfortable without getting reps that he could slide in there, whereas if what they want to play Shedeur, they would want to get him a full week of work. That would be kind of the rationale in my mind if Shedeur is not the number 2. I think Shedeur was obviously on the 53-man roster. Bailey Zappi was not. So in big picture, they like him more. I think that could maybe be the answer if that's the case. And if not, if Shedeur is just the number 2, it's because he's the second-best quarterback on this team.
Nathan, can Cam Robinson take over full-time as the left tackle here?
He better be able to. I mean, listen, it unfortunately, it really can't be much worse, right? Cornelius Lucas had given up 28 pressures in 4 games at the time, and last week was inactive. At the time that he had given up those 28 pressures, nobody else in the NFL, no offensive lineman had given up more than 18. So that wasn't working. You give KT Levison an opportunity last week. That really didn't go well. He's given up 3 sacks and 13 pressures this season. Cam Robinson has started 102 games. Cam Robinson's a former second-round pick. Cam Robinson has started for Minnesota last year, 10 games when they had a very good offense. So I think that, yes, he can solidify that left tackle position. Do we expect him to go out there and be a Pro Bowler? I think you'd say no. That hasn't happened yet in his career. But can he just be serviceable over there and kind of minimize the damage that's been happening? I think that would be very helpful. Now, last week we saw him in his 7 snaps, had a couple of penalties in those 7 snaps, so we got to make sure he's lined up in the proper way. The officials, it's really been a point of emphasis for those guys. You got to have your helmet at least on the belt buckle of the center. But yeah, I think that's why they made the move to acquire him, is to kind of shore this thing up. And I thought Jack Conklin came back. He played very well last week. Joel Bitonio is a wonder. When you know what he's dealing with, the fact that he's going out there and playing at the level he is really incredible. I think Ethan Post is having a nice year. Wyatt's having a good year, especially in the run game. So, yeah, if you can solidify that last tackle spot, I think that will do wonders for this passing game because, quite frankly, put John Judkins in this ground game is working very, very well.
Nathan Zegura joining us here on the show. Did you see Jackson Dart last night?
I did.
All right, Tone, ask him, because I was sick to my stomach when Tone asked me.
Did the Browns miss out on another quarterback?
I mean, he was drafted in a spot where they didn't have a pick, so I don't know. And it's way too early. He also lost to, were you asking that question when he lost to New Orleans last week?
We ask it only after quarterbacks have good weeks.
Thank you.
Come on, Nathan. Are you new to this show? Do you understand how we operate, Nathan?
Yes. Listen, I like watching Jackson Dart. I don't know about you guys, but what he reminds me of a little bit is maybe not quite Jay Cutler in terms of the pure thrower, but he's like a little Jay Cutler, but with a lot more wiggle. The one thing I worry about with Jackson Dart is you've got to play 17 games, and the way that he exposes himself to contact is not a recipe for playing 17 games. But watching him and Scadaboo and the Giants kind of have that moxie and that physicality last night was awesome. I will say there was something I saw during that game that I thought was repugnant, and that was 4 straight tush pushes. Like, get that out. Where are we playing rugby?
You took it. You took me there. That was going to be my next question. You took me there. I believe there was there not a timeout in the middle of that? So there would have been 5. I thought there would have been 5.
God. I don't know. It was awful to watch. I mean, it was brutal to watch. First of all, the right guard false starts on every single one of them. Like, just call the play. They got to get rid of it. It's too, or at least you can run it once. You can't run it twice in a row. Like, enough. That was disgusting.
Who's the Eagles play caller again? It's not Sirianni. Who's the Eagles play caller? Do we know off the top of our head?
I don't know his name, but he's the new one. Because remember, Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator last year. He's now the head coach in New Orleans. I think it starts with an L. They were talking about it last night, and I know that there's a lot of disquietude around his performance and what's going on with that offense.
Kevin Patullo. So there's an L. Yeah. So it feels like that. If I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm probably cussing him out, going, "You put a spotlight on this play, and now I'm not like you got to think big picture." Now I got to protect this play. I have Amazon Prime put a zoom in. Now, of course, they slowed it down so it looks egregious, but they're definitely jumping off sides, or they're definitely false starting, I should say. Then you try to do it 4 straight times, which you probably would have done it 5 straight times. Now I don't know who gave the code red, so maybe it was Sirianni who just said do it. But if you didn't do it now, what's the talk of the country? It's Jackson Dart and the tush push this morning. You're kind of exposing yourself. You want to be able to use the play. It came to 2 votes during the offseason there. So I'm mad if I'm Nick Sirianni. Let me ask you this: what do you do to outlaw the tush push? I had an idea, but I want your idea first.
I just think they're going to vote to ban it. I think it'll be a rule vote, and I think they'll vote to ban it this year. I don't know exactly what the rule is going to be for them to ban it, but yeah, they've got it. That wasn't even football. It was ridiculous last night. I remember, and I was on a bunch of group chats, and it's like all of them instantly, this is awful. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Get rid of it. Yeah, I think that was right there. The Fonz was on his water skis, picking up speed, boom, right over the shark, and that was it.
I totally agree. My idea was, I think that you institute a rule where nobody with the ball, or you can't push a ball carrier behind the line of scrimmage.
That used to be the rule. You couldn't assist a ball carrier.
But I'm saying behind the line of scrimmage. Like Like if Quinshon Judkins carries it 9 yards, he's close to a first. Like who was it?
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying. So
yeah, like the play in Baltimore a couple years ago, which was awesome when we ended up moving Jerome Ford.
That's it.
Like another 10 yards. Yeah, I think you're right. You cannot do it behind the line of scrimmage. I think that makes it easy. But yeah, I think you blew it, boy. They blew it right there. By the way, little known fact, I don't know if you guys know this, but I came across Henry Winkler saying that he was such a great skier that's how the whole genesis of this came up. Somebody in his family told Ron Howard, hey, man, you got to see him ski. So they came up with the jumping the shark idea to have him ski. He actually did the skiing. He didn't do the jump. It was too valuable of a property, obviously, the Fonz, but he actually did the skiing in that scene. Little known fact.
I thought he admitted that during a Jim Rome interview years ago, but I'm not
good.
sure.
Maybe he did. I came across recently, and then the guy was like blown away, and he's like, "Yeah, not only people know that I did that, but that's how it came about."
What a remarkable man Henry Winkler is. What a remarkable man you are, Nathan. We'll be listening to you on Sunday afternoon. Hopefully the Browns will get themselves a win out there in Pittsburgh, and we'll have a much sunnier disposition on Monday morning than we did this last Monday morning.
Couldn't agree anymore. That would be fantastic.
Nathan, thank you very much for the time. The great Nathan Zegura on the Fan Hotline.